welcome to the stream. If you want to tell everybody what your name is, what you did, and then we can start getting into your choices and everything.
Of course. Hey guys, hey chat. I'm Chance. Was playing YCS Richmond 300th, and we finished 12th after 15 rounds of Swiss with pure branded DESPIA.
Woo! It was very much. I didn't even know if there were. I think a lot of people in the branded Facebook group, like we were all wondering if there were any branded players left, and I couldn't tell since I was still in the tournament until the last round, at least day one. But you know, it was exciting to see a branded list make it so far, and you know when I saw the list too, I had to bring you on the channel, so I appreciate you responding and coming on so we could answer some questions because we have a lot of questions from the community actually. So yeah, so we'll get into matchups of course, and a little afterwards, but tell me what made you bring this version of branded. We're looking at this. It's a 41 card version or deck or branded deck, and of course there's a lot of hand traps. 3 Fallen the Virtuous with Fuwalos. And like you just mentioned before, it seems like you took a little inspiration from maybe Sam Jang's list, since there's some similarities there. But you let me know, like, how did branded feel for you in the event, and how did the list treat you?
Yeah, so especially leading up to the event, especially I watched that your discussion with Sam like 3 or 4 times, trying to like really understand the vision he had with the hand traps. But I had my own take on certain things, especially with how I wanted to play going first with like the OG kit, the new kit, and branded away with my combo line that I would do going first. Um, and it worked out. It was game ones. I would usually either break their board or set up a board that they just couldn't. It was so layered, especially with all these new cards. You'd get 3 fusions in the graveyard in your first turn. Main phase 3 was crazy. But no, the hand traps definitely made things a lot easier.
Yeah, I guess we'll just go we'll go card by card, and I'll ask you about how those things worked out. I see that, you know, 41 card build. Did you ever end up testing with 60 or like 50, or were you always kind of just around that 40 card mark in your testing with the new branded support leading up to the YCS?
Yeah, with the new cards in branded, I was trying to go a lot slimmer to try to make it a little bit more consistent with seeing not engine and engine together. So I was always closer to 40, never really up to 50 or 60.
Sure. And then we see the 3 Aluber, of course, very standard. 2 Fallen of the White Dragon. You know, of course, brand new card out of Burst Protocol, $100, and I think it's there for a reason. Being you know, we haven't seen this many branded tops in a while, and with the new support, I definitely think it gives the stack a turbocharge, being able to play through hand traps. I'm sure you found that to be the case as well. 1 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Cartesia, 1 Quem. No fusion deployment. Did you like the Quem Cartesia plus the 1 Ecclesia? Like no issues there. Never missed something like a fusion deployment or like maybe multiple Cartesia or anything like that.
No, those ratios are actually kind of perfect. I beforehand was always a 2 Quem, 2 Aluber person. That's what I did a lot of my testing with, but I made that change at the end of going with 3 Aluber, 1 Quem, just with utilizing that synchro a little bit better. And that definitely made like consistency not an issue.
No, that makes sense.
But
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, yeah, just with like that normal summon being more impactful too, searching off of a Luber instead of just Quem by itself.
Okay. And yeah, it seems like that's quite standard now. Honestly, that's probably the ratio we will see going forward. And of course the 1 Ecclesia and 1 Shrouded, and we see this is where things start diverging a lot, and I really like this honestly post my YCS experience. But I'll have to ask you, you're running a Tri-Brigade Spriggans kit plus a Spriggans kit and 1 Bestial Saronir, and then for the rest of the branded engine, you are just on one Mercurier. So no Bestial Lubellion, and you also don't have the branded Lost to tag alongside that. What made you settle on this on the kit package plus the one Saronir? And did you ever miss maybe the Lubellion or Lost, or was this enough? I think maybe you could also get into, was that your standard branded fusion line, like sending the kit? Just let me know how those were, because a lot of people were kind of, I think, hesitant to put in the kit in their deck, and then we saw the second place Milwaukee list also have that kit package. So you can tell me how that worked out for you in your tournament run at this YCS.
Yeah, so with that new kit package, like just with the kit package with the synchro line, that's what I was prioritizing going first every time. Like if I had branded fusion in hand, I would put it back with kit if I had like hand traps in hand, just so I could search fallen in the white. But a lot of those it was really just focused on the synchro lines, and then the new kit was my branded fusion target, my light target for um Albaz if that was the only play. But it was usually like after going the synchro line end phase, uh Quem dumped the kit to summon back Cartesia, so I would have like Mirror Jade, Quem, Cartesia, and the synchro with the quick play set and whatever hand traps I had in hand was a lot
Okay.
of my like end boards that I would wanted to go towards. Sornier, I mean, I just kind of used them as a level 6 target to like dump something that I needed or like wanted protection with like opening or something going into a deck. But I mean, he was just a Bisteel there that I always use for a high spirits target, so that's
Did
just
you
kind of
ever
his purpose now.
like, I thought when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's keeping that in there to maybe keep the branded fusion line open with Cartesia. Did that ever come up, or it was really just because it's like a good card in branded, right? It's like the best high spirits target thing to pitch, right? So and maybe also just like
Yeah.
the random yummy, it's almost like an engine card at that point. So you don't regret running the one Saronir or anything like that, or you thought it was pretty strong as it was alone without the Lubellion and Lost.
Like looking at other lists too that top, like especially like Andre Torres's playing Magna Hut instead. I like looked at it and I think that would have probably been like not a bad choice either, just because it has that search ability. But the versatility of just Sornier dumping stuff in grave with branded, because it's our second hand, really comes into play a lot of times when you're getting into those longer matches, because usually his effects really good on on the opponent's turn, either dropping opening or dropping retribution that I can add stuff back in end phase, and then I just go for the kill shot in turn 3.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's also one of the biggest underrated factors of it. And like Shrouded, that I noticed when I like cut those cards in testing months ago, I'm like, these are just really good discards at the end of the day. So I totally respect that. And of course, once again, the one
Mhm.
Mercurier, not much to say there. I think it's like the most mandatory brick and branded at the moment. But and then for the non-engine package, this is where we can talk a little bit about that before we get into the rest of the branded spells and traps. You are running 3 Fuelos, 3 Ash Blossom, and then 3 Valor and 3 Imperm, which is reminiscent of Sam Jang's lineup where he was running also that. So how did you like the hand trap package in a smaller branded build without more traditional board breakers that we've seen from branded lists in the past? Do you think the hand trap package worked out for you? I mean, obviously, with doing so well with the list, I'm sure it did. But do you think this is like the way? I mean, maybe that's too broad of a question, but like, do you think this is do you think this is a very viable way to run branded with all these hand traps, especially into this format?
Yeah, I believe so. Especially with like going into it, I was thinking Draco Tail was gonna be my it will be my hardest matchup, mostly just because of all those traps they can set. Steen really hurts the most. So anyway, like the imperms, I can slow them down, not being able to search find mana, and then ashing the Rahu so they couldn't set the traps was just it was helping a lot. And then just honestly, it wasn't even bad like drawing Valor going second because I would high spirits it away, send a Grant Dust Dragon, and then Just Dragon turned into a board breaker for me, summoning out Proskinion. So like having that dual purpose with Fua and Valor as high spirits target is really useful. So it's really only like 3 Ash, 3 Imperm that are kind of like not able to be used with the branded engine, but like it's Ash. Ash is is needed, and then Imperm's kind of just like extra help, I guess.
I think that is what I noticed in my testing. Like, I'm not sure how much how much Dracotal did you end up playing against over the weekend?
Here, 1 second. Let me. I had to reminisce on the matchups today so I could have it. So mostly day. I play 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 branded Draco Tail over the 15 rounds.
Oh wow.
Um, and then yeah, it was a lot, mostly in the early rounds, and then I didn't get any until right at the end of day one, and then day two, especially at the like higher tables of day two.
Okay, and that's actually what I noticed too. Like coming into this event was like Dracotal was like
Yeah.
my worst matchup, and I honestly feel like this hand trap package solves that matchup for the most part. Like, did you win all your Dracotal matchups?
I lost 2 out of the 5. The first one I lost was table one, round 9. We were both undefeated, and we go. I took game one. I broke his board, and then game two. Um, I had the hand traps I needed. I was drawing into multiples. I needed him to play, and then he just set 3 traps, and one trap was flame. I played around the flame, but he had the counter trap, so that was kind of a wraps. And then he also had called by going in second, so I wasn't expecting that because I was going to super
Yeah.
poly his board with OG. Um, and then game three, he drew Ash off of Flame, so the branded fusion couldn't resolve. And then so that was end of day one, and then day two, or like round 13 or 12, I was at table three, and um, yeah, I just got a little unlucky. Game one, I think I was going second into the board, and I think I just had some miscues that I think would have helped a little bit better. But then game two, I just didn't open optimally going first, and I had like one line of play, and he stopped it, and then 5 minute Urgila'd me.
Oh no.
So
The classic. Okay.
yeah,
I mean, you went positive
yeah.
on your
So it
Draco
was
Tal
kind of
matchups. The Valor
yeah,
and Imperm though, in that matchup in particular, you felt was like really strong for you though, or like did you ever
yeah,
get frustrated
yeah.
with like the Fallen and the
Oh, sorry.
Virtuous interaction there? I don't know, like if you were like Valoring their Lucius and they just chain Fallen and the Virtuous, or did that not really happen much and they were still very solid?
Nobody would chain the Fallen or Virtuous. Sometimes depending on which hand trap I had, I would imperm the Lucius, or I would just wait for Arthurion. Um, but there was only like one niche interaction going into game two that was just kind of hilarious with the whole like chaining of Femena to the imperm. But yeah, no, hitting them early, trying to cut them off from names in hand is really beneficial just to outgrind them.
Sounds good. I know that was a little. I made you explain a lot on those hand traps, but I think a lot of people appreciated that. And so, did you miss something like a super poly, which we saw in Andre Torres's list? I think also the second place Milwaukee list. Like, was that ever something that you were like in game and you were like, oh, I wish I had super poly between my side and main deck, or you felt like the package, those hand traps, being backed up with like the Mulcharmies in the main and side plus Fallen the Virtuous was enough with like, I mean, you do also have Brandon White, which is a breaker in its own right. So, did you miss the super poly or anything like that?
No. early testing, because I'm more of a breaker player when I was playing with Branded originally, and I tested Super Poly. It's just not, it doesn't do enough to take advantage off the board. So I'd rather just not let them get that advantage on their turn. So just stopping them from playing was like more important than trying to go into the board. So like, and especially with the way I wanted my extra deck, I just had no space for Super Poly.
Yeah, we'll get into that extra deck really soon because I really liked your utility based extra deck, and there's a few choices there that definitely have some questions on. So for the rest of the spells and traps in the branded engine, there's two branded fusion, three opening, the branded white that we just mentioned, and then the two branded in high spirits, two fallen in the or three fallen in the virtuous, and then one gold sark. I have to ask, how did you like the branded in white over branded in red? Did you prefer that over branded in red? And maybe just give your opinions on that debate, which we be seeing it's kind of going on in the branded community right now. If we run white or red,
Yeah. Um, Personally, I went and tested both individually in this deck, and Branded and White, for my like main combo was just more something that I preferred a lot more than in red, and I just felt like in red was just kind of more bricky going second, especially super relying on something engraved where in red sorry, in white I literally got ashed on branded fusion or impulsed, and then I just branded in white right after, and it just that was the end of his board really once you resolve a fusion. But yeah, just because of the way I like to and especially I just feel like it's more impactful going with the synchro route going first is the biggest thing for the going first combo.
100%. Like having that Ecclesia come back every single turn is just really overwhelming for your opponent to deal with it. You know, on top of the Cartesia, high spirits and everything coming back, definitely really good. And you can see why Brandon White was really nice. What were you usually making off of that going second, like Chaos Star between Chaos Star Source and Mirror Jade, essentially?
Yeah, yeah. Going second was basically used to make a- any kind of fusion, honestly, because they would start popping my stuff as soon as I would summon in white, or yeah, basically when I summoned in white, they would try to pop it, and then if I drew it, I just already had it, and it like try to play around Ash Blossom too a lot of times. So that was helpful as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure being
but
able to
yeah,
play
just
on.
going.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say mostly just for the going first, putting up a Jade is just super important. I felt like, especially just to remove bodies if they did play turn zero on you.
Yeah, I do. I think in white is way more cleaner than in red going first for that reason. Like you're able to put the Grand Guignol to the graveyard and stuff, like banishing it, and stuff like. And like you said, that's super important for the turn zero plays. Like if they turn zero Holly Sue you and you have the Mirror Jade on the board, it's like okay, So, um, uh, would you ever play it both in red and white, or were you pretty okay with just having like rotating between virtuous and retribution as your sets like during the end phase off of Albion?
Yeah, so a lot of my decision making at the end, so I would never really dump retribution during my going first turn unless like branded fusion is the only way I could play. But I would kind of see how much they like what kind of hand traps I was getting thrown at me, and that would kind of key in on what I wanted to set at the end phase. So if I was getting like Perulia, Fuad, or any sort of like multiple hand traps, I was setting in Retribution just because I like thinking, okay, so I'm gonna be playing against most likely like a Draco Tail matchup. Whereas if they just let me do a full combo, I'm gonna set Fallen in the Virtuous because it's probably Typhoon, and I would like to be able to do something instead of just seeing my Retribution go to grave off of MST.
Yeah, definitely have noticed that, but that's actually a really interesting tidbit that I'll point out for people in the chat because that's something I've like kind of been guilty of, just like sending retribution for almost no reason. It feels like sometimes, in going first when it can be something that you set in the end phase, and against decks like Dracotal, it's just extraordinarily powerful. But like you said, against MST, it's not. So it's a lot of decision making between that and playing carefully, and that I really like that explanation. So yeah, I mean, now that we're done with the main deck, you were quite happy with the main deck. No real changes you could think of offhand now. It sounds like in terms of like
No,
the main deck
I
monsters and spells and traps.
no, I loved how the deck functioned and everything. I think that the kits are what makes like the synchro line the best going first for branded, and then I just think the new kit is the new Lubellion for branded fusion. So that I'm a firm believer on those two.
Were you ever like sending kit off of like, Quem, or like discarding it in grind games and like reviving Mirror Jade? Was that like one of the better like use cases of
Oh,
that card for you?
yeah. So especially so end phase like summoning Quam off of Titaniclad, I was always dumping the kit just to get Cartesia back on the field. So I would end with a Cartesia and Jade, so I could do the double Jade loop on opponents, and then yeah, if they dust drag, if you have dust dragon, you can summon Quem, dump the kit in the middle of a game, and then you just activate kit, and then all of a sudden there's a Mirror Jade, and they're just like, wait, what? Yeah, no level restriction on that. Any monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz, and they're yeah, not happy campers.
Doesn't even target, so it makes it really hard for your opponent to interact with that as well, since
Yeah,
you can just do something else if they steal.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's great, and the main deck looks beautiful. I can't wait to test this out myself. So let's get into the extra deck now. It's one Proskinion, two Albion, one Mirror Jade, one Lubellion, one Lenatus, one Sanctifier, two Guignol. How did you like the double Guignol? Because I've been seeing some lists start cutting the one Guignol when they're not maining the lock. Did the double Guignol come up for you? I know you mentioned the board breaker aspect of Guignol with high spirits, which I personally also really like for the double Guignol, but you can tell me if maybe this is something that someone could cut from your list going forward. Do you think it's like kind of mandatory in this kind of build?
Personally, for me, I think I would stay with two because just for that aspect, sometimes the spellcaster is your only high spirits target to get into combo, and later in that, you still want another dust dragon in your extra deck to be able to summon something with Cartesia. I just think they're like too vital to your grind game and then going into boards.
Did you like the main deck Sanctifier without having the lock? Like, were you ever making that card game one, or anything like
I
that?
I
Or
I never sorry. I never made the card the whole event.
really? Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut that most likely.
Would you ever cut
Of
it to the
I
side,
want
or
to. No, I truly think it's not even. The only reason I had it was to have a card that couldn't be targeted, just in case if I needed to make it in the Radiant Typhoon. But
yeah?
I never made it.
What would you have you thought of replacements for it? Like, would you ever go to like a Borreload or maybe a second Dogma or maybe a Secretarion Dragon? Some people were asking if you miss Secretarion Dragon.
I even beforehand, I had Secretary on in there for a while, and I never made that either, even into Draco Tail boards. Personally, I kind of am thinking about testing a second Dogma, just because would how many times it's so much like easier to dump your fusions into grave that like your accessibility to dump is just super important, and then just having targets off of Jade and ways to fuse, I think having something more generic and that you can plus in the end phase would be more impactful. So right now, I'm thinking about a second dogma in that stay or some sort of card to pop back row. Maybe a
Y-
boar load, but it's just like hard to get enough dark dragons on there in
Yeah,
some
like
game
there
states.
isn't yeah, there isn't like a great equivalent now, especially since we aren't running like multiple bestials or like multiple shrouded anymore. Maybe like a second chaos star source. I just like sometimes I struggle with having only two monsters in our extra deck that have like a board breaking aspect to it because sometimes I run out of steam in like a grind game. But I feel like, I'm sure this came up for you. Like maybe you were like retributioning or dogmaing some of your monsters back to be able to play with them, or I mean, the Fallen the Virtuous also just makes it so you're always like, and plus you have the kit. You always have Jade in rotation, so I can totally see how this more utility extra deck definitely worked out for you. Um, and then you do have the one
Yeah, so like
sprined. Oh, sorry.
especially with like
There's just a lag, so
no,
you can go.
I
You
was
can
just saying
explain
like
that.
yeah, you're good. Just with like the second another reason just to have that second dogma too is there's times where I have like so many like I already put Albion, I already put Titanic Cloud Engrave with off of like High Spirits or Fallen in White that I needed a dump for Granganol, and I would dump the Dogma just so I could get him a courier in hand. But then I would be kind of missing it later in the game if I wanted to super poly into Dogma. So that like Dogma I just think has such good uses that I think it's just a very I think it would be a good two of. And then plus you can dump it off sometimes you have to dump it off with high spirits with kit and with the two kits.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah. How did you like the Sprine the Iron Dash Dragon? This was something I was testing for like the MST matchup since you don't have great like Albaz targets into that deck. Like
Yeah.
did this card come up for you?
Yeah, so this I most of the week but leading up to it, I was testing a lot against Radiant Typhoon. And there would be times where I just needed to get a body off the field to just stop them completely. But I hadn't like the only kind of target would be Renderum that you could super poly them with. So and that's getting dumped off of Jade a lot of times or falling in the Virtuous. So I needed a generic super poly target that I could use with the OG Albaz, and it helped. Even like not even playing against Typhoon, that I would if something just didn't fit the like attributes for Albaz, people would be like, okay, and then their monster's gone and Sprint's on the board, and they're saying okay because they don't think you have a actual target, or you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, no, that
But
makes sense.
it
Yeah, yeah. I like that actually. Um and you're also
yeah,
running
so
the kit
it
which
was
can
very
summon
it's
it.
useful. Yeah. So it's very useful in like those aspects too. There's times where I dumped it and I had to summon the like Spriggans to search like the quick play so I could and then put the card back that I didn't need or so I could like pop something in their end phase and stuff for recycle resources.
Someone asked in the chat, "What's your Fualos line?"
Fullest line would be
Ideally, I guess.
so it depends on where I'm at. Yeah, in the game state, it would most likely be because a lot of people were hitting me with Fua on the Fallen of White to summon Ecclesia. Um, at that point, I just kind of threw. There was only one time that I took the challenge. I can tell you after after this. I took I took the Perulia and Fua line. Uh, and we won that though. But yeah, on that aspect, I would just try to chain something to get a fusion out, and then um, most likely just try to end with Ecclesia and Albion and Grave. So either that be activate Brand of Fusion, dump the kit, and get another Albaz on the field if you'd like. But it would be most likely the Albion. I'm sorry. What's his name? Alba and Ecclesia on the end board, and then have quick plays. And but it's nice too because you can play. You don't get as punished as much because you have hand traps of your own now. So like you can give them 2 draws, but now you still have like 3, 4 of the card like in your hand that can are interruptions too, not just what's on your board when that's usually the case for branded. So I think that caught people off guard too a lot. Was like I'm hand trapping you now.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And then we have just the Chaos Star Source and the Ecclesia. You mentioned how Dogma was amazing, so people can consider maybe running that over the Sanctifier. Um, and then for the side deck, we had a lot of questions on Archlord Christia since you went the distance, got top 16 with this deck at a huge YCS. So how much did Christia come up for you, and were you ever like maining it, and like how did you like in the side, and would you continue to run it?
So I'm probably gonna cut it after this. I'm looking maybe cutting Christia and Invader of Chaos, Invader of Darkness. I want to try the DeBells, the original Sinful Keeper, in that spot instead for both of those. But Christia, I only summoned it one time. Um, this whole event, and that's when I took the Fua and Perulia challenge because I had a good enough hand that I don't think he could have stopped me from summoning him, and I knew he wouldn't have an out for Christia. I gave him like 20 draws. Yeah, shout out Milano.
Oh, really? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Shao Milano. So you didn't like. So was the Invader of Darkness just bad into MST for you? Like, how much MST did you play against, and did you feel like this, like the Sin Keeper would have been a better option, like you said, because you could cut both options and maybe side that into like multiple matchups than just MST, where Invader is really just there for MST. And I know MST can also make the link to out this, so like I don't know if you had that situation come up.
Yeah. Most of the time that they don't hand trap you at all. So you can make your entire board. The only card that I was worried about that I had to play around when I played Typhoon was Sheena. So I would structure my chain links that I would activate everything kind of in a way that would play around Sheena and then kind of do my final action summoning Invader with following in the Virtuous in like the end phase so they couldn't Sheena me, and then they can out the board. Like I only played Typhoon in day 2. 4 out of my 6 matches were Typhoon, and I didn't lose a single one.
Wow.
Every game one, I won. They just if you just play through the quick plays, especially the MSTs negates, as long as you play around like chaining it so the trap can't directly respond, that you kind of just pick apart their board. And then
That
yeah, and then game 2 I would get defissured, and I was like, okay, we'll go to game 3, and then I'm just gonna summon Invader, and that's what I did. Most of the games I played against Typhoon went to game 3, and I just summoned Invader in game 3 because I would win game 1.
Okay, so Invader was solid. You just felt like the Sin Keeper might have been
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
just fine into that matchup, but then also pretty good into other matchups, right? And then you could cut the Christia, I guess.
yeah.
I'm just trying to point down like you really think that Christia isn't that it wasn't that good for you in this run.
So I cited it in a good amount of times, but just the amount of resources that I like needed um to dump into the graveyard, it wasn't enough value. I was trying to I felt like I need the resources were more important to have to play than dumping the lock and then it getting outed. So yeah, I only summoned it one time the entire event, and that was pretty much it.
Okay. I'm sure
It
that'll
was
give
one
some.
game.
Yeah, the challenge, of course, and you actually had some a
Yeah.
really good point on MST, which I noticed afterwards, where that matchup gets a lot easier if you play around the trap, like being able to like making it so they can't chain the trap. And you have so many quick plays that you can get there, and then also chain or setting up your board so you can play around Sheena. I do think that is very important as well. So I appreciate you mentioning that. And because generally speaking, I think that's one of our harder matchups, but it sounds like you had a very easy time for that. Were were you getting into grind games against MST? Like, is that kind of how you won your games against MST? Because it seems like they get, because just with all their breakers, it feels to me kind of difficult game one, but sounds like you were winning a lot of your game ones against that deck.
Yeah, the game ones didn't really go the because I'm hand trapping them as well, so like they're having to play like with less resources and like I mean just the cards that were giving them the major like card advantage, like Radiant type vision that draws them to. I'd rather Ash that than Corsair because you can play around the MST with your quick plays, but them getting more card advantage and getting into that non-engine quick plays is like where their power I felt like came from, like being able to interrupt a branded deck just because we can play around the MSTs so well with chain blocking.
That's a really good point. I always feel like when they draw into breakers, that's when it starts becoming really difficult. So that's a really good articulation of that. So the rest of the side deck, we have the Cyframe package plus 3 Perulias, 2 Drolls, and then the 3 Dragon's Mind. How was the rest of your side deck to you? Were you happy with the rest of the choices? I see you have the 3 Dragon's Mind for the 3 Fuelos going first. Also a quite nice discard, and the Cyframe package. You
Yeah.
can let me know how those performed for you.
Yeah, I was super excited to use the sci frames. I've had them in my binder for so many years and never been able to use them. So they finally came in, and I mean, I didn't really get to use Delta really much because I was hand trapping them with other stuff, so they couldn't even get to their spells. But Gamma came in clutch against a Dragon Tail player. So Imperm, Chain 5 mana, Chain Gamma. You
Ooh.
just watch them kind of be like defeat. But those were really good. I really enjoyed them. Perulia came in basically. I into Draco Tail. I would side 2 in. I didn't want to go 3 because every time it was just like a personal thing. I always like saw too many and they never gave me enough value. So 2 felt like it was the right spot going second into Draco Tail just to stop those their falling in white plays or slow them down a little bit. The Drolls. So a lot of my thought process too with like my side patterns, um, especially with those last like what 7 cards, Droll, Christia, Invader, and Dragon's Mind. Fu would come out for the Dragon Minds, and then I would take out all 3 Imperms into most matchups too, just so depending on it, like Radiant Typhoon, I would put 2 Drolls and then Invader Darkness for the Imperms going first, just because they have so many MSTs. I want my interruptions more in my hand than on the in my back row. And then if I was going into Draco Tail, it was dependent on how I was feeling for that, but it would be like, the Dragon Mines, and then Imperms would still come out most times, and then I would put Christia and then Gamma and Driver in to try to stop like a Mulcharmy or a 5 mana play on, because a lot of people, if you just high spirits, they're gonna interact if they have an interaction, and if you just have Gamma in hand, now I get to summon a free Ecclesia and still get my search. So
No, that's really cool. So that, yeah, having that
those
Gamma
are
going first is actually kind of important too. Actually, card's good.
mhm,
Or maybe going second when you're trying
yeah.
to, or sorry, when you're playing, trying to play the game. You aren't running called by. Was that something you missed, or was that like a choice for running a little bit less in terms of the quick plays for MST, or was that just kind of an easy cut to try to get towards a more 40 count? Because I just noticed that, so I have to ask.
Yeah, I played a lot of matches against Radiant Typhoon and a good amount of Draco Tail, and Called by is not that impactful into Radiant Typhoon, and then I feel like I never activated Called by when I would play against Draco Tail going into board. So it was more like on the premise of I don't want a dead card in hand, so I mean you could see it maybe in the side deck for a Dragon's Mind if you were worried about it going first, but I mean I just didn't want the card in my hand going second with in this format that I
Okay,
like was thought up in my matchups.
yeah, yeah. And then I just had to ask about like would you keep running Droll? Was that like a strong performer for you? Like maybe against like VS K9 or like just having it since it's a high spirits bridge, like anti Fua. I'm not sure if this is because I didn't see a whole lot of Droll, but like obviously it's like good into the matchups, it's good. So um just for people
Yeah,
potentially trying to run Droll, would you recommend it
yeah.
or not?
So yeah, I personally um I was going in and out between Ghost Mourner, but I know like Radiant Typhoon is like if you, I mean, if they play and draw, they're gonna get cards. But I rather my thought process too between that and Mourner is like Mourner's okay, I thought, but I just like that the high spirits link with Droll, and then going first with Droll, like you set up your whole board, and then they do one interaction, and then you just put them under Droll. It's just like they're not gonna have enough to um break like kill you, and then you just set up like branded fusion, set branded fusion off of Albion, and add all your cards back to hand and end phase, and it's you're just gonna turn three you're gonna kill them.
No, that makes sense. And then we'll get into the matchups. I know I've had you here for a while, so I appreciate you sitting down with us,
No, you're
Chan.
good, man.
Seriously. Like a lot of people are gonna be able to take a lot away from this, so we appreciate this a ton in the community on the channel. But what were you siding outgoing second mainly? I think some people want to know for like siding
uh
patterns.
yeah, so I took a lot from the Sam video, especially with on his patterns in the side going second. um but most of the time it was the two opening, a Gold Sark, McCurrier, and then OG kit. And then sometimes it was really kind of dependent on if I wanted more hand traps or not, would be maybe a high spirits or an Aluber or even Sornier sometimes, but it was mostly the two opening, the Gold Sark, the OG kit, McCurrier, and then maybe one Aluber. I was just like seeing sometimes going second some consistency issue, so I was kind of trying to keep the third Aluber in just for a good normal summon because going second, I was seeing a lot more hand traps than engines sometimes.
That is what I noticed about a this hand trap build. Personally speaking, sometimes my deck felt better going second, or like so I don't know if this happened to you where you'd like go first, you draw only like Fua plus hand traps, and then you get into kind of a grind state with your opponent, and then you end up kind of top decking into that. And that actually brings me to like Nibiru or anything. Would you ever run Nibiru kind of like Andre Torres or um to have something to draw off of Fua or anything like that, or do you think Nibiru wouldn't have really came up in your run?
Um, I mean, I played a few Yummy, and I mean, I just feel like you have such a strong matchup into that. Like, I never really wanted Nibiru, but I could see maybe like siding one Nibiru. Yeah, like I said, if I took out the Christian Invader of Darkness and put the Diabells, I could see like putting a nib in there, or like yeah, a nib, and then maybe one of the Dragon Mines out for called by for going first. Because sometimes I was breaking on the Dragon Mines going first, and then that's when I would have to play into a grind game sometimes.
No, that's totally fair. I think Dragon's Mind is an insane card, and we've seen it kind of take over. Like all the Dracotail decks are running that card now. It's something I've considered too is like Nadir
Yeah.
Servant in that place, because I have the same thing in my testing where like I would go post side going first. I'd have like a Dragon's Mind, or I could have a Nadir, which is full combo. So like it's stuff to consider, but that's good to know that like the Dragon Mind was still solid for people who want to consider that, but you could maybe, like you said, cut one copy or so. So that basically concludes it for the actual deck list. And would you like to maybe just just quickly go over your just what you actually played against? You said you have most of your matchups. I know we covered most of the, like, we covered the Dracotal stuff in the MST, so you don't really have to go into detail with those. But for people who want to know, would you like to give your matchups for people?
Yeah, I got you. One round, I'm like, I don't remember it entirely. But my round one was branded Dracotail Magistus. We went to game three. Then I played round two, Pure Mitsu. Round three was Elven Note Fiendsmith. Round four, branded Dracotail. Round five, branded Dracotail. Round six, Yummy Fiendsmith. Round seven, Canine Vanquish Soul. Round eight was that Yummy Radiant Tri Brigade deck that the pro guys were all on. I don't know. It wasn't that good. And then round nine was branded Draco Tail. Round 10 was K9 Christian. Round 11, Typhoon, whatever. Round 12, Typhoon. Round 13, branded Draco Tail. And then round 14 and 15 were both Typhoon.
What were the other two matchups that you lost? Because, or sorry, you said you lost against Dracotal twice. What were the other matchups that you ended up losing into? I'm just curious for people to maybe like be able to focus on certain matchups.
So I went X3 overall. I just didn't have the tiebreakers for
Oh no, yeah.
in my favor for to get to, yeah, so a lot of like that break, like that top eight, like eight spot was 36, and there were so many of us with 36, so it was really up to the tiebreakers. And I mean, the guy that I lost to, my first loss in round nine, I forgot his Steven Gleason, I think he topped for the event. Um, he made top eight. And then the two people that and then I lost to Kanon Christian. I didn't know that. Honestly, I haven't seen that deck in a long time. I didn't know that they were doing double spell canceller. So I outed the first one, and then they used the Kirikuri or whatever, the rank 5, and
Kankiri.
summoned another one out of deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they summoned another one out of deck, and like I was I wasn't expecting it, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to interact here," and I should have interacted there because I just didn't know they were going to have another one, and the rest of the cards in my hand were spells. So that definitely was that I could have played, hopefully baited something else for them to waste the negate on, especially
Yeah.
because they still had the infinity negate, I believe. Um, and then it was just branded Draco Tail for was my third loss.
Very good record, brother, and great job. Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're playing in more YCSs this year. We got Columbus and also Nats, and hope we'll be seeing you there. But this is incredible performance, and we're looking forward to seeing what you do for the rest of this year with Brand, especially with this new support. So I think everybody in the chat appreciates you coming on to show off your list and some of your insights. Like I said before, this will definitely help. It's definitely gonna help me at least. So I do want to appreciate you, Chance, for coming on. Do you have any final thoughts on the list, or maybe for tips for people that want to play branded this format, or get better at branded, because you are You know, playing brand at such a high level is definitely like no easy task. So but if not, you could also shout out in anything if you have like a YouTube channel or anything like that for people to check you out.
Uh, um, I think one thing that was really important for me was like if I were to stress something, especially in that extra deck. Well, actually, I think the two kits is the way, but the double Granganol going into a board and then use and then being and then once you search Fallen in White, so many people like nervous of that card start activating monster effects and then you're able to summon out Proskinion. That saved me a good amount of times, especially into the branded Draco Tail matchup, because now I have a 32 100 attack monster, and they would always end either once they knew what I was playing, they would always end on Secretarion or make Secretarion on my turn, and I would try not to get myself locked into the restriction for level A fusions and synchros, and that card saved me a lot of games, especially being underneath Secretarion's lock. But no, man, I'm also a person on your little the YouTube member stuff, so I'm always in here watching stuff, and I
Aw.
enjoy the content a lot, and I always have it on, so I get a lot of information from what things work and what things don't, because I have some time, but not always have all the time to like try different things and new things. So I really appreciate that what you do for the branded community out here. And yeah, man, no, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully this helped give
No,
some information on the list. But it was a good weekend, and I'm really happy. I've been playing this deck for a really long time, so it's finally good to see some results.
it's a huge accomplishment, dude, and seriously, it gives it's everyone was so happy to see that. So, you know, great start to this format, and this will really serve as a guide for people going forward with the deck. And once I appreciate the kind words, brother. We'll definitely have to cook in the future. I heard from Sam you've also tested with Nightfall too, so you're around. You've been around the
Oh
branded
yeah,
community, so
that man's
uh,
my go.
we love
That dude
Nightfall, man.
he's taught me so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That
same
guy
here,
is
dude. Like, if there's
amazing.
anyone who's taught me more,
Yeah.
like the most on branded, it's Nightfall. Shout out to Nightfall. I can't wait to see him playing the new support and everything. I know he said he was a little busy a month or two ago, but hopefully we'll be seeing him cook on the deck seriously, because it's people like you, it's people like Nightfall, Sam, who are pushing the deck forward, and we're here to try to aggregate that information and synthesize it for the community so we can get more people topping like you guys. So very much appreciate you coming on, Chance, and we'll have to do this again in the future, man. Good luck with everything, and I don't want to take too much more of your time. It's been an hour, but thank you once again, brother.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your night, and yeah, branded best deck, baby.
Brandon Best deck. Thank you. Have a good one, brother.
Bye. See you guys.